With me right now, live from Washington, D.C., Senator John Hoeven. Senator Hoeven, thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy day. Huge breaking news today. Obviously, the National Security Agency surveilling millions of lawful abiding citizens here in America, their phone records via Verizon. Are you an advocate of this, or what's going on?
No, I have concerns about it, Chris. Look, we understand that they're trying to make sure that terrorists don't come to this country and, plant a bomb or do other acts that would hurt our citizens. But I think that this is overly broad and raises real concerns. So
obviously, from what I hear, you've been debriefed on this in the past, correct?
No, that's not the case. I believe that the Intelligence Committee received briefings on it, but that information was confidential. I'm not aware of any briefings beyond that.
So I guess the bottom line is, are you a proponent of this? I know what you're trying to say is, hey, Chris, here's a chance to create this possible illusion of more security and safety for Americans. But at the end of the day, this is against the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, as I said, I think this is overly broad. I think it raises concerns. I think we need to address it. So we do want to find ways to catch terrorists. And if they're calling somebody in the United States and trying to set up some kind of terrorist act, we want to be able to address that. But I think this approach is overly broad and raises privacy concerns. And I think there's a sense in Congress we need to address it. To the extent there were briefings, my understanding is those were provided to the Intelligence Committee. I think now that other members of Congress are finding out exactly what's going on, there's a feeling here that this needs to be addressed.
So because this breaks the Fourth Amendment, is this legal action by our government?
Well, again, we've got to get all the information. I believe it's being done pursuant to a FISA court order, so they're following the law. But again, it raises privacy concerns, and I believe it's overly broad.
Yeah, according to the Patriot Act, Section 215, this is legal, and I think that's what scares people. I guess at the end of the day, Senator, what I want to get at is, what in the world's going on? Here we find out the government's mining Verizon phone records of law-abiding citizens. We have the Attorney General going after a Fox News reporter, going after journalist phone records. Is it just this administration, or does government now just be getting so big it's unmanageable?
I think it's some of both. I think it's this administration, and it clearly is a case where we have too much government. You see that in the amount of regulation, you see that in these issues that we're talking about here today, and you see that with our deficit and our debt. We have to rein that in. We've got to reduce the spending, we've got to control the size of government, and we've got to reduce the regulation in order to get our economy going. So all of those things are very important to get done what we want, which is a growing economy and a debt and deficit that's smaller and reduced and under control.
In your opinion, should Attorney General Eric Holder step down?
I really think at this point he should. I think there's a real question of confidence in what he's doing. And some of these developments we're talking about go to that very fact.
I want to get your thoughts on Ms. Rice now being appointed the head of the National Security Agency, a woman that showed up on 5 Sunday talk shows misinforming America about Benghazi, now gets appointed as the head of the NSA. Your thoughts and comments on that?
Well, that's an appointment the president makes that's not approved or ratified by Congress, so he's able to do it. It's not an appointment I agree with. Clearly, we're going to have to work with her. The security of this country is something that's very important, and so we've got to make sure that we do everything we can to protect Americans. But I think the reason he put her in that position is because it's not one that requires approval from Congress.
Senator John Hoeven from D.C., thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, sir. Look forward to having you back on the show very, very soon. Stay with us. We've got more coming up in just a moment. We also heard earlier today some sound bites from Senator Al Franken out of Minnesota. His thoughts on what's going on here with the NSA searching your Verizon phone records. We'll share that, plus some of your thoughts and feedback. As always, go to our website, 630pov.com. We'll be earlier today, Valley News Live reporter Eric Kress had a chance to sit down and visit with Senator Al Franken out of Minnesota. I'm going to play a couple of sound bites for you here in just a second, but before I play these, one of the things I want you to do is think about what we talked about in the opening segment. Do you believe today's politicians? Watch what Senator Franken has to say and just sort of ask yourself as you're watching this, do I trust this guy? Do I believe what he's saying?
Well, as Senator Feinstein, who's chair of the Intelligence Committee, the story does seem to refer to things that we've been briefed, that have been briefed to members of the Senate. All those questions that you asked are questions to be answered. We do know that this data is treated differently than you might think, and that we have to have a lot of questions answered about this. I'm about to go, right after we do this taping right now, I'm going to be going into an intelligence briefing about this. So there are questions that I have for NSA, for the administration. We know that there is a nexus between national security and this, and that's what this is all about. And it depends how this data is used and what safeguards are in place. So the kinds of things that you were talking about are not stored, are not kept, and that the only data that is being mined is data that needs to be mined for national security.
So it's not stored, but yet they're mining the data. So how do you mine data if it's not being stored, number one? Number two, as he says, it's going to be treated differently than you might think. Well, how specifically? Why don't you answer that question rather than just making the statement and then go on and say, yeah, I'm about to go into a committee meeting soon. How specifically is it treated differently? Here's another clip from Senator Al Franken.
Yeah, well, basically, this story is consistent with things that we have been briefed on in the Senate. But this specific scenario is not one that I've been briefed on. I'm not on the Intelligence Committee. I'm on Judiciary, and we're the ones who deal with the Patriot Act and those kinds of things. So I have a lot of questions for the administration, and I'm going directly to an intelligence briefing to see if the safeguards are in place that need to be in place here, so that NSA is not using this information and that it can't use this information in any way other than to sift through in a way where they're just trying to find threats to our national security.
Do you believe that? I think I want to ask you in your gut, not if you're a Democrat or Republican. None of that stuff matters at this point. Look, the one thing that makes us all the same is everybody in our hearts wants freedom. That's why people risk their lives to come to this country. And I'm asking you right now, take the D, the R thing off and just say, hey, do I trust? Do I believe what that man just said to me? And you might. And you might not. Let us know. Go to our website, 630pov.com. When we come back, we're going to get to your point of view. A lot of great stuff coming in. Want to invite you to continue to have it come in. Go to 630pov.com. You can email us. You can text us. Leave us a voicemail. You can see that information right here on your screen. We'll be right back.